A very good morning, it's Fabio, and EURUSD has continued a little bit higher in towards the liquidity highs that we've been mentioning on the 4-hour time frame. So remember from yesterday's market outlook, we have two liquidity highs, both this one here and this one here, and those were preferably going to be taken out before looking for any shorts. Yesterday I mentioned as well that we could potentially have seen a short if we broke this overall 4-hour fractal low, but as we can see, we never came in the neighborhood of that low. We just continued pushing up higher, so that's fine. So we just let price drive up higher in towards our new areas of interest from where we can potentially then look for a short once bearish momentum starts to kick in. Because again, guys, we do not just simply sell based on this bearish candlestick. One bearish candlestick doesn't mean that we're actually going to be heading down lower. No, we need to wait for actual structure to shift. So for example, what I would like to see today is a strong bearish candle close underneath the overall weekly open, and then we form a nice area of supply from where we can then, for example, look for an overall short position. So I'm just simply waiting on the sideline here for EURUSD, and once I will be getting in is once we see that bearish confirmation and that bearish market structure shift appear within the market. So waiting for that to happen. Furthermore, on the daily time frame, not much has changed, as we can clearly see here. The daily time frame is still internally bearish, where we had the push down, pull back up, push back down, pull back up, push back down, and then another pull up in towards that monthly, free monthly. We've left behind equal lows here at the bottom. We still have this liquidity open as well. So this is just simply what could be kind of like, again, an internal trend starting to form here on the 4-hour time frame to lead price in towards that low. Is it going to happen today? I do not know. All I know is that I'm going to be waiting for confirmation, and once I get my confirmation, that is when I'm going to be happy to look for a potential EURUSD sell. Now, in yesterday's market outlook, I also mentioned, guys, that I'm looking to open up a small private group where I will be sharing my own personal swing positions with you guys. I'm currently working on setting this up, so if you would be interested in that, make sure to keep on watching the daily market outlooks, because somewhere towards the end of the week or beginning of next week, I will be announcing how you can join in there, just to share more value as always with you guys, and give you guys a little bit more insights into what and how I trade together with the team. But this is EURUSD for now, just waiting for that bearish confirmation to come in. We're just chopping a bit. Obviously, we have a very heavy week with euro interest rates. We have dollar interest rates, yen interest rates. So it's not strange that the markets are moving a little bit slower this week. So no need to force anything. We'll just wait and see if we get what we want. Furthermore, today we retraced here on the 4-hour time frame into this overall sell for the buy here on the dollar, which is now causing us to push up a little bit higher. Again, yesterday we didn't see the price action that we wanted. What I was looking for yesterday for bulls to continue in the market was obviously a 4-hour fractal high break. So this high break over here, and then we could have looked for long. But as you can see, we've just chopped back down lower. So no positions to be taken, and just waiting overall. I got some questions about some people who were saying, "But Fabio, we are extremely bearish on the dollar." Obviously, it can head down lower. I'm not saying that it's not going to head down lower, but if we look at the current price action that we've been seeing, we can clearly see that we have a corrective pattern in towards the downside with the 1-2, and then here, the fake out on the second low. Since then, we've seen a V-shape reversal in towards the highs, and we've been creating higher highs and higher lows. The immediate daily order flow, guys, still is simply bullish. So the only position that I would be looking for shorts on the dollar is if we break this overall low here, and then, for example, retest the free monthly open, and then from there head down lower again. Otherwise, until then, my focus remains on looking for those potential further upside longs. Now, yes, we've been consolidating, haven't really been moving very well as of yet. So if you now want to look for any potential longs, then we need to break up above the weekly open again and then retest that, and then we could trade back up in towards the equal highs that we have here, kind of like at the top of what is pretty much an overall area of consolidation. Okay, so I might see some short-term buys there on the dollar index, but obviously, again, if we zoom out a little bit, you can very clearly see that the market structure here on the dollar index still remains bullish, right? We get the push up, pull back down, push up, pull back down, push up, pull back down, and now we're again in the overall impulse up. Now, yes, after grabbing, for example, liquidity here on the dollar index, we could see further downside. Well, we've already seen some further downside, but if you now really want that further downside, what needs to happen? You need to break this low over here to confirm that this liquidity actually wants to push the market down lower. Otherwise, until then, you're simply still bullish. So follow that overall core principle, and you will keep trading very, very simplistic for yourself. Again, obviously, the dollar index can sell off. I'm not saying that it can't, but you need to have a mechanical framework through which you approach the market, because otherwise, you're just going to be kind of like chasing your own opinion, and sometimes you're going to be right, obviously, but it's better just to stick to one core concept. So for now, that is that the dollar index remains to a certain extent bullish, but what we now need is obviously for the bulls to come back in, close above that weekly open, give us a 4-hour fractal break, and then maybe we can see some further upside again, for example, to the top of that little range that we're forming over here. Not expecting much more for now from the dollar. Going into GPUSD, GU, again, consolidating, not much going on. We still remain bearish on GPUSD as the pound is still extremely bearish for myself. As we can see, we're still well within the impulsive phase. Not much has changed, if I'm very honest, and still just looking for further downside from this. What I can say is that, again, the 4-hour time frame is super, super messy. I think you guys can see it as well. We're just kind of like moving a little bit in a range in some way, right? We're kind of like stuck within this box. Yes, we are still trending in towards the downside, so it still only makes sense for myself to look for that further downside, following the overall 4-hour, following the overall daily trend. So I'll just be looking for that further short positions. However, from current locations, I don't really see any nice potential shorts on GU. So if you would want to take a short position on GPUs, you would, for example, need to take out this high over here and then get like a 4-hour fractal structure shift. So that's the only kind of like short position that I would be looking for, maybe. But otherwise, I'll personally just stay out. Or if you're already in a short, for example, from the free monthly/monthly open, then obviously you can just hold on to those swing positions that you already have open. Going into AUD/USD, we can see that AU has pushed aggressively in towards the upside. So the Australian dollar has been supported mainly by their overall risk-on sentiment within the market. So obviously the Chinese and the US trade deal has been supporting the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar. Australian dollar is currently situated well within an area of supply. Let's keep our eyes open. Not the best short at the moment. Yes, you've seen a 4-hour fractal structure shift over here. But again, not the perfect and ideal setup. I would definitely be looking at a different setup where we have a weaker counter currency, if that makes sense. So for example, on NZD/USD, the New Zealand dollar is a lot weaker. We've neared the free monthly/monthly open. So for this, if this were to see a clear fractal break in towards the downside, so break the overall line here, and then give the retest, then you have a beautiful short position on your hands, where we could take out all of these ascending lows, because yes, what are we forming? A lot of ascending lows here with a lot of liquidity. So I would love to see this drop, but again, I've seen many instances where it just chops and chops and chops and chops and chops. Yes, we've taken out liquidity here, but for example, we might as well also just take out liquidity here. Also still perfectly possible, right? Don't get caught up in trying to time the perfect short. Wait for momentum to kick in, wait for there to be a direction chosen, because as you can see at the moment, the market is not really choosing any direction. It's just stuck within this ascending corrective price action. So don't get stuck in that as well. Wait for the overall breakout, wait for the momentum to come in, and then the good short will come. Obviously, if you zoom out, you can clearly see, guys, that we are bearish, right? We are trending in towards the downside. So this is, again, a well-positioned potential short that I have my eyes on. But we need to see that momentum start to come into the market, and we need to get that bearish confirmation, and then the shorts will definitely be starting to play out. And then the real confirmation will come on the daily bearish fractal break, and then you can get a lot more aggressive with your overall scale wins. But we need to see something happen here on NZD/USD first of all. That's the most important part. Now, going into USD/CHF, USD/CHF made a nice drop off yesterday, has been moving out of the area of consolidation, still rejecting the overall monthly and free monthly open. This, for me, with Swiss being the strongest individual currency pair based on fundamentals, still makes sense for a further short position. That the Swiss franc has been bleeding to a certain extent due to that risk on sentiment coming again from that trade deal. So it's not the highest probability short, let's say, based on geopolitics, but based on core fundamentals, USD/CHF should sell off in towards the downside, but it will be heavily dependent on what is said during those trade talks. If somehow there is an amazing trade deal on the table and let's say China and US start hugging on national television, then USD/CHF might see a further push in towards the highs. Do keep that in mind. But otherwise, it does technically look very, very good for an overall sell-off, obviously. As if we look at this just from a zoomed out perspective, you can clearly see that we are bearish, right? So we get the breaker structure down. This here is the overall swing high. This here is the overall swing low. The market retraces into premium pricing, being the overall, let's say, 0.5 Fibonacci retracement. And then we see a clear market structure shift in towards the downside. We've retested, and now we're looking for further shorts from the monthly/free monthly open. So yes, further downside does make sense, purely technically based, and you could follow this momentum in towards the lows, and it's a nice hedge against any potential dollar longs that you might be in. Going into USD CAD, USD CAD has been consolidating, not a pair that I'm looking to trade at the moment. This week we have a lot of news as well on the Canadian dollar, if I'm not mistaken, GDP numbers being released, and obviously we have the US interest rate decision as well, with the speech from Jerome Powell, who is the head of the Federal Reserve. So I would keep my eyes kind of like open for other opportunities than USD CAD. So for example, a USD CHF, USD CAD is not extremely clear at the moment, as it's at the moment just consolidating within this overall box. So know when to stay out, guys. And then we have, of course, USD JPY. So the yen has been appreciating in value. If we quickly go to the yen basket, you can see we've been pushing back in towards the upside. Now, the yen basket, not preferably really something that I love trading at the moment. You can see that the yen basket has been pushing back into the buy before the sell here, which is a potential supply zone to push us down lower, though there are some fundamentals that show that the yen is getting slightly stronger this week as well. We have the yen interest rate decisions, and we have the speech from the central bank there. So that could cause a massive move on USD JPY as well. Obviously, we still have the high open here, right? So you can see that we've got equal highs. So there is still potential for that or those highs to get taken out. We've now taken out internal liquidity, which is this low over here. But there's still some other lows as well, which we could potentially take out in the form of these blue dotted lines. So we're still in the impulsive phase. So you can still look for longs, but you would need to wait for that bullish confirmation to come in. So wait for example, the 1 hour structural shift to occur when taking out liquidity low. So for example, take out this high here, and then we could look for longs, or wait for it to happen here and then look for longs. Then we have, of course, gold last of all. So now gold has been selling off. Yesterday I mentioned that price was consolidating and that we could have potentially looked for a long on the low of the range again. But then again, you can clearly see that supply remained here in control, right? To the buy before the sell. We tap into that and then we just quickly sell off again. So absolutely no opportunity to take any long whatsoever. So I know a lot of you are also in shorts. Congratulations on that. Because now we've taken out major liquidity here on the daily as well. And we still have more liquidity to take, right? So we still have, for example, this low open. We still have this low open. We still have, for example, these lows open. So now what you want to do, it's now become a game on the daily. You want to wait for, let's say, the market structure to shift, right? So we would need to wait for this. These are the only longs that you can take, in my personal opinion, at the moment, as supply for now still remains in control. So yeah, for now, further push in towards the downside, follow the overall direct momentum, and I would only be looking for longs once market structure shifts, after indeed taking out liquidity. So keep an eye on that, and yeah, maybe some longs in the future, but for now, just follow the direct overall order flow and momentum. Obviously, as of this morning, we've already been selling off from this area of supply over here, and it doesn't make sense to look for any buys at all, as yeah, the direct momentum is in towards the downside. So just look for, again, accumulation and then further short positions until the entire overall order flow shifts into yeah, longs. But for now, it remains bearish, so I would be looking just for simply consolidation and then further short positions. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Wish you all a fantastic trading day, and yeah, speak to you soon inside Discord. Thanks.